Mrs. Ward?
Here.
Mrs. Errico?
Here.
Mr. Brescher?
Here.
Mrs. DeStefano?
Here.
All present by Mrs. Maroney, Mrs. Maneker, Mrs. Peng, and Mrs. Patel.
All right, so since this is the summer meeting, we have stacked session. So we're gonna go immediately to the closed session first. And I hope we'll come back on time at 7 o'clock. If we have more discussions, someone will come and inform you guys how long we're gonna take. All right, is that Dan?
You gotta read the opening statement.
Oh, I'm sorry. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Edison Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted in the Board of Education administrative offices. Copies of these notices were sent to the Home News Tribune and the Star Ledger on January 8th, 24th, 2018. The public may participate at regular meetings in accordance with the bylaws and the applicable state regulations.
Okay?
Okay?
Whereas Section 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975, permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, and whereas this public body is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist, and therefore be resolved by the Board of Education of the Township of Edison as follows. 1, the public shall be excluded from discussion of and action upon the herein specified subject matters. 2, the general nature of the subject matter to be discussed is as follows. Attorney-client privilege discussion regarding student issues, contracts for interim superintendents, employee matters, litigation brought on by former employees, M&M construction litigation, and lease purchase agreement. Under personnel, we'll be discussing resignations and terminations, retirements, appointments, reappointments, leaves of absences, changes of status, longevity, substitute staff, freshman orientation, kindergarten orientation, summer institute, coaching appointments, and authorization to approve salary increments for lunch aides. 3, it is anticipated at this time that the above stated subject matter shall be made public at such time as the need for non-disclosure no longer exists, and for this resolution shall take effect immediately.
Motion.
Okay, Mr. Errico, second. Okay, Mr. Brescher.
Mr. DeStefano?
Yes.
Mr. Brescher?
Yes.
Mr. Errico?
Yes.
Mrs. Ward?
Yes.
Mr. Shi?
Yes.
All yes.
All right, can I have a motion to reconvene?
Yep.
Okay, Mr. Brescher.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Errico?
Mr. DeStefano?
Yes.
Mr. Brescher?
Yes.
Mrs. Peng? She here? Yeah, we're going to close back to reconvene. Okay. Mr. Errico?
Yes.
Mrs. Ward?
Here.
Mr. Shi?
Yes.
All yes.
So, okay. The first item on here is Board Secretary report and approval of the minutes of July 18th and July 30th of last month. Can I have a motion on that? Okay, Mr. Brescher, second. Okay, Mr. DeStefano.
Mr. DeStefano?
Yes.
Mr. Brescher?
Yes.
Mrs. Peng?
Yes.
Mr. Errico?
Yes.
Mrs. Ward?
Yes.
Mr. Shi?
Yes.
All yes.
Okay, so before we actually open up the portion, I'm gonna switch the agenda a little bit to allow the public to comment before we actually vote on the resolutions. So before we talk about the resolutions, I'd like to have a motion to add the resolution was just distributed to you. This is about the approval of the Mr. Sexton, the employment contract as interim superintendent of schools, subject to commissioner approval of the salary cap waiver.
I make a motion to approve.
Okay, second. Okay, Mr. Brescher.
Mr. DeStefano?
Yes.
Just to put that on the agenda.
Just put on the agenda.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Brescher?
Yes.
Mrs. Peng?
Yes.
Mr. Errico?
Yes.
Mrs. Ward?
Yes.
Mr. Shi?
Yes.
All yes.
Okay, so this item is on the agenda. You have the resolution in your hand. So now we open for public comments. Anybody has public comments regarding the resolutions?
You want to explain?
Oh, you wanna explain first?
How we got to talk about?
Yeah.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. It's good to see you all again. Hope you had a good summer. So we've been working with the board on getting the superintendent contract approved since the board discussed it at the last meeting. And as of today, we received notification from the county superintendent approving the contract, which is why this resolution is being added to the agenda tonight. So the resolution before you is to approve the appointment and the employment contract of Mr. Paul Saxton as the interim superintendent of schools, subject to the commissioner approval, being the Commissioner of Education approval of the salary cap waiver. So this will allow Mr. Saxton to begin working on September 1st as the interim superintendent, based upon the approval from the county superintendent and the confirmation from the Commissioner of Education on the salary cap issue. So that's what's being added to the agenda tonight, and I wanted to give you the history of how this happened in terms of today and why it's being added.
Okay, so, you know what, let's just change it a little bit. So, we need to go through these items, that we'll let Margaret go through these items. Then we're gonna open up for public comments, then we can vote on it, right? Because some of the items you're not even aware of, let's just go through that.
To speak into the microphone.
If you can just talk into the microphone so
Okay, I'm
Teresa
sorry.
could hear.
All right.
Sorry.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna let Margaret and Dan go through the items first. These are the resolutions, these different reports. Then we're gonna open up for public comments. Then we're gonna vote on these public comments. Okay, I'll vote on these resolutions. I'm sorry. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Under administration, there are several items. One is the on-site clinical services, which is renewal of a crisis counselor contract for employee assistance programs, as well as for emergent student situations. The second item, PSAT approval of a delayed opening on October 10th, is so that freshmen and seniors at J.P. Stevens and Edison high schools will follow a delayed opening schedule to allow sophomores and juniors to take the PSAT in a proper testing environment. And as you know, the calendar for the school year has already been approved, so any modifications to that calendar needs to be approved by this board. With regard to school improvement panels, or SCIPs as they are more familiarly known, they're mandated for every school annually, and they are there to ensure teacher effectiveness. We're also going to pilot a program for the New Jersey Principal Evaluation for Professional Learning Observation Instrument. We currently use the McCrell model. Recently, we changed over to a homegrown instrument for the teachers, and now we're going to be piloting on a volunteer basis any administrator who would like to be involved in using this instrument for their evaluation. Similarly, not only do we need the evaluation instrument itself to be approved, but then also the evaluation rubrics that have the appropriate indicators to be able to rate the principals in each of the domain areas. A demographic study we are in need. I know you've heard it mentioned several times over the past many months. We're in need of updating our district demographic data. And under administration, the final topic is professional consulting services agreement for Mr. Saxton. Under curriculum and instruction, we have curriculum guides up for approval for the 18-19 school year, which are inclusive of any revisions that were done over the summer. We have several field trip approvals, as well as professional development documentation for out-of-district events for our staff. And finally, under pupil and special services, there are a few additional out-of-district placements. We are also in need of professional services for a provider to help a student in need of a sign language interpreter. And lastly, there is a revised list of in-district special education self-contained classes for the 18-19 school year. You might remember there was a preliminary list that was shared back in June, so this is the revised one. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dan?
Okay, if you want to turn to your finance part, you'll see for the investments, we receive interest in the month of July in the amount of $26,336.21. The resolutions that we're looking for approval tonight, we have a transfer of funds for the end of June. As it closes out the fiscal year, you'll see it's for $582,000, and $550,000 of it happens to be, as I mentioned last month, for special education. Related services and transportation special ed ran way over the budgeted amount because of the number of students we had that were getting those services. So we needed to transfer those funds, and this puts us in the black in every line item. And the two books are now closed out, and the auditors are already starting the audit. Item number 2 is the renewal of the roof maintenance and repair bid. We had bid this back in 2017. Pat Wood Roofing won the bid. They did a great job, and they're willing to hold the price the same for another year. So I'm recommending we renew that for another year. Item number 3, if you remember last month, we did approve the amount of money received from the state for non-public nursing services. However, we also have the Education Service Commission of New Jersey provide those services to non-public schools. And resolution number 3 lists all the non-public schools that those services need to be provided for. And we need to have resolution 2 name those into the, for the board to approve those. So that's what number 3 is for. Number 4 is actually for some of the non-public monies we received. We have the Ed Services Commission actually take care of the non-public monies for us. The board has to approve the purchase orders prior to the purchase orders being submitted. So number 4 is for non-public security monies for 3 of the non-public schools, as you can see on the list, in the amounts that are listed. And number 5 is also for the same thing, but the first one's for security aid, this one's for technology aid. It's another list. It's got about a half a dozen or about maybe a little closer to 10 non-public schools. And you'll see there's some fairly sizable ones there for Bishop R, which is one of our largest non-public schools, in the amount of $25,000. But we still need to have board approval prior to the submittal of those POs. Item number 6 is a small list of obsolete items that we received from 3 schools. We'd like to have those declared obsolete. Number 7 is the bill list for the month of for July, in the amount of $6,637,593. And if anybody has any questions on the bill list, please let me know. Item number 8 is the August transportation report. This is the rebid for some of the bids that we rejected last month because we either had the numbers were way too high or we had no bidders at all. We went out to bid again, and we did receive numbers that were more reasonable, and we'd like to award these in this amount. And I have one item other that I'd like to add to the agenda. We received today approval from the state for our FCCLA grant. We've gotten this for quite a number of years. It's in the same amount of money as last year, $146,500. I'd like to get it on the agenda today for approval so we can get this thing moving. I'd like to start that program in September, so school starts. So the resolution will read that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Edison Board of Education approves the acceptance of the Family Career Consumer Leaders of America grant in the amount of $146,500 for the fiscal 2019 school year. And that'll be added to the agenda.
Okay, thank you, Dan. So just a quick question, for the buses, we have all the routes?
All the routes are covered now correctly, yes.
Thank you. All right. So now we open for public comments on the resolutions only. So anyone, name, address, and 6 minutes. Yes, go ahead.
Elizabeth Conway, 20 Netherwood Circle. We've made a number of changes over the past month regarding the superintendent. Could you make it a little more clear as to the progression chronologically of how it took place? Because first you had an acting superintendent up to the 20th. And then I'm reading you have a consultant for professional services to the 27th, and now you have the interim starting as of 9/1, is that correct? What specifically is the, or who was the consultant?
You want to address that?
I see we still have our acting here.
Correct. So we appointed an acting superintendent. We hired a consultant, which is Mr. Saxton, to work with the acting superintendent for specific services, which are outlined in his agreement, which are to assist in the formation of district-wide goals, plans, implementations, strategies and policies, providing advice and counsel to the acting superintendent.
So between the 20th and September 1st, you had an acting superintendent and a consultant?
Correct.
Okay. And then starting on the 1st, you have an interim?
Correct.
Now, at the meeting last month, I don't remember specifically who said it, but we were talking about having the possibility of a special meeting that would have taken place between last month and this month to discuss the costs incurred. And that didn't occur, so is there some way you can relate that information to us as far as how much this is costing us?
The total cost?
Well, how much was the consultant getting,
So
like
the
a per diem?
The consultant is a per diem rate.
Okay.
That rate is $819 per day.
Okay, and now the interim is over a cap, so how much is that per
The
diem?
interim salary is per diem rate as well, and it's an annual salary of $214,000 at an interim rate of $819.23, the same rate as the consultant.
So 823 and 819. Now,
And, $819
per day,
per day.
okay. And without going over the 214. Now, how
Without
long
going
can
over-
Mr. Saxon be the interim superintendent?
The
Is there
duration
a-
is until June 30th, 2019.
Okay, and what happens if you don't find someone? Hopefully you will, but
You'd have to reappoint someone, or Mr. Saxon as the interim superintendent.
he's allowed to
2 years.
continue?
2
Up
years.
to 2 years.
He's allowed to do it for 2 years, okay. My second question is, I know we decided this a long time ago, we weren't gonna do this, but we're doing it anyway.
Dialogue?
Yes,
You know, it's funny you bring that up, and I'm gonna pause your time just because.
because you're just as bad. You're the one that started.
No, I didn't start.
I thought you finished
You
the
asked the
question.
question.
Yeah, I thought you finished
I haven't
the
been here in a
question.
while, but I will say, we had this conversation in closed. And I paused your time. But I recommended that going forward, particularly beginning of the year, so not this meeting, because everyone's coming in under the old rules, so I'll be fair. I have 4 kids, I understand rolling things out. But going forward, I recommend that we allow everyone to ask all of their questions. Then at the conclusion of the public speaking period, the district will respond to all of the questions asked to avoid the dialogue back and forth. That was my recommendation, and so I think that would be the best way to
I'm not
operate.
thrilled with that.
I understand, but it is an effective use of time because we're into probably past 6 minutes now with this me pausing, and there are a lot of people waiting. But I do think, I wanted to say that would be my recommendation going forward. After this meeting, it's up to the board to ultimately decide. We had that discussion, and I wanted to give everyone the heads up that I'm gonna recommend we do that next meeting, so.
Quick question, all
Going
right,
back
2
to-
questions.
going back to you
2
have
questions then.
2 minutes and 40
I
seconds.
noticed that you hired security guards for the schools. Will they be replacing the policemen? That's the first question. And the second question would be, the purpose of the demographic data survey, is that something that's required? And if it's not required, what purpose will that serve? How will this help you in the future? How's that?
We are required to have a demographic
You are
study every
required.
5 years. When you do your long-range facility plan, one of the requirements is to have a current demographic study done by a demographer, which we've used in the past, and that's what Sundance Associates is the one who did it last time. We haven't done it since December of 2012, so we're way overdue.
So you are
So we're,
required.
right now, we're in the midst of trying to get the long-range plan updated, and one of the first things they're gonna ask us for is the demographic study.
And what is the long-term purpose of it?
It
do
gives
it.
you the next
Just to know
5
who's
years.
living there?
What he's gonna do is he's gonna not only go through birth rates and increasing cohort survival method of trying to estimate your current enrollment or your current future enrollment over the next 5 years, he's also gonna go to the town and talk about housing improvements that are going on, or building, and try to incorporate that into our plan, because don't forget, last couple of years, we had over 500 students. We're still not sure where they're all coming from. This year, I'm not sure what we're up to yet, but I know we're gonna have an increase. We did budget for 378 this year. I don't know if we're gonna exceed that this year or not, but this demographic study will give us a proposed number over the next 5 years. And his last report they gave us in 2012 was very accurate until we got to 2 years ago when we had over 500. He wasn't estimated 500 at that time. We weren't either, for that matter.
Okay, so my
Yeah.
final question is just then the security guards.
Yeah, we'll more to add.
Okay, well, on that survey, that was one of the things that we were talking, since we have Paul, we're talking about getting a new school built or attacking our overcrowding issue. And we had that study, and that study did project a 16,000 student enrollment at this time. But moving forward, even if we plan to do the overcrowding, we don't know what we're going to add, to those roles moving forward. So we do need that data. It seemed like it was a fairly reasonable cost, and, for us to put that together for overcrowding, I think was very important. The police and security, I'll comment on, I guess, they'd like to also comment, but we're going to come up with still a whole plan. We're going to try and formulate an entire plan on our police, security. We obviously can't put a police officer in every school. You can't do that. They don't have enough men. The SLU 3s, we don't know how many they can get us yet. We're still working out an agreement on insurance on that. So we are hiring security guards. So there'll be some kind of combination of security guards, class 3, police, to make sure that the children are all protected. Where they're actually going to be, they may be listed here as a certain school. That's not necessarily where they're going to be. We're going to make sure that all the schools are protected equally. That was one of our topics of discussion for tonight.
And are they armed security guards
These are just plain security guards.
coming from a security background?
Yes.
Or will you
Some of
train
them are retired police officers, but as you know, SLU, that SLU 3, you can only be retired for like 3 years. So if you're a police officer, you've been retired for 4 years, you cannot be an armed security guard working for the township and then for us. But it doesn't mean that you're not a qualified candidate. So we're looking at, that whole combination of things.
Very good, thank you.
I just want to add, that was part of the plan from last year, that we're going to security guard and class 3 police officers.
And this was in that allotted budget?
That was in
For
the-
Yes.
security?
Correct. Yes.
Tell him, talk into the microphone. I can't hear you. Move it over.
Carol Podofsky, 39 Jonathan Drive. There's a lot going on here tonight, but two things on the agenda make me particularly happy. The one is your renewal of the Rutgers Biomedical and Health Sciences healthcare project that has worked so well in our district. Between today's crazy world and the stresses that accompany our overcrowded schools, this is support that is really needed in our schools. I'm so happy to see that you're continuing this exceptional service. It being proactive with our students rather than reactive when we have problems is a lot easier. And when we work together and all are concerned with the issue, we put the we in illness, and instead of illness, it becomes wellness. I'm very happy to see that. And then I don't usually get to comment on Dan's report, but in his finance resolution, I'm very happy to see that we are accepting the FCCLA grant. They had a hard time getting it through, and it is something that impacts students across the whole state, but especially our students in Edison. If you look in the trips, you see we have students from both Edison High and J.P. Stevens going to national events in leadership. And this organization develops leadership and advocacy skills in our students and also trains them in parliamentary procedure, which is very important, in so many of our students. And this training and this experience helps them across all areas of the curriculum. And I'm very pleased to see those two things tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes.
Beth Talke, 15 Midwood Avenue. Question about the superintendent contract, the interim superintendent contract. You said that his salary would not exceed $214,000 a year? Is that correct?
Correct.
Is he eligible for merit goals and so forth like Dr. O'Malley was?
No.
Not at all?
Right now, the contract doesn't include that, but
Contract doesn't include it, no.
Okay, so the contract's been done. One other question. What was Dr. O'Malley making when he left here?
215?
215,742.
Okay, so somebody coming here as an interim.
Let me finish, plus the benefits, which, you know, the pensions, and plus the holidays, and the merit bonuses. So the whole thing added together, it's close to $300,000 or something like that.
Okay, because just my concern was it still seems like an awful, what is the cap? What is the state cap that they can get paid? And
It's
I know we went over that.
$195 plus there was a little bit over several $1,000s for additional high school. But, you know, I know where you want to go. But let's look at the salaries of some of our principals. They're over 180. We look at the salaries of some of the administrators in the building. They're close to 210. This is superintendent who has a responsibility for the entire school district. So I feel that the salary that we offered is reasonable compared to the other school district and compared with where Edison is, the 5th largest school district in the whole state of New Jersey. And you can look at it, this is a per diem contract. There's no vacation days. There's no sick days. There's no, you know, other thing that's added on top of it. So this is a very per diem salary. If he comes in, he gets paid. He doesn't come in, he doesn't get paid.
Okay.
Very, very simple.
But as a taxpayer, it's also making me a little bit nervous financially that we're also setting the precedence that we're going to start off this high, so that salary is going to be like way over cap, maybe even more than Dr. O'Malley was making. Dr. O'Malley, number one, has his doctorate degree.
We
and
are not
experience.
talking about something that down the road we're going to deal with it, but if you want to talk about this particular contract, this is salary we're paying, 214. I think you know, it's reasonable that the board you know, felt that's the salary we're offering. We're saving taxpayer money, just at least for this year, that you know, as long as Mr. Saxon is here.
But I don't think we're really saving it because other salaries have gone up so much that it's kind of more of a wash. Also, has anything gone out yet for the posting for a new permanent superintendent yet, like to the papers or like nationally? You know how you put one out for Dr. O'Malley? Has that all started rolling yet?
What was the other question you have? I'll answer them because I don't want to give you the time, yeah.
Okay, that was my last
That was
question.
your last question. Right now, no, but we will be putting out things once we get things settled down. Because the first.
What's your time frame?
I don't know yet, but the first priority is get the interim superintendent, get all the things settled so we can get the new school started. Once the school starts, we can look at all of that.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Ms. Consoldini, for all that you've done in stepping up to the plate to help in the meantime.
Anybody else? Resolutions only.
Anthony Diameron, 15 Rodack Circle. As far as the school security is concerned, because I don't think there's any other important issue if we don't decide on the security of the kids. What will it take to get armed security in our schools? I mean, what is the process? Why are we dragging our feet on this? Why did we go backwards? I thought we passed.
What are the other questions you have? So I just want to answer.
Well, my other question is overcrowdedness. Somebody made a comment before about.
It's not part of the resolution, so you can come back to talk about overcrowding later.
Well, it's the demographics though itself.
Oh, okay.
I mean, how do we not know who these people, who these kids are? We don't take. They're not asked. We don't take studies. They just come. There's no accountability. There's really no. We don't. The fact is that we claim that it's overcrowdedness. I don't know what you're using, what measure you're using it on. I'm not an expert in that field, but we claim to not know who these kids are. I don't know how is that possible? How do we not know whose kids are in our schools, in our kids' classrooms? They come from, we don't know where they come from, and there's nobody that wants to do a study on this, it sounds like. And the school security is a joke. Having a security guard here we got to consider ourselves. We're going to consider ourselves lucky if nothing happens because it's a joke. I don't know. We keep going backwards. I don't know why we keep going backwards. It's just common sense stuff. But those are the two right now, though. So I don't know. Thank you.
Okay, so to address the security question and what we're doing, we're following what we decided last year. We have put in the budget to have the 17 new security guards, and we're actively working with the Edison Police Department to hire the Class 3 officers. The hiring process is handled by the police department. It's not by the school district. We are still trying to finalize a contract with them. There are some detailed stuff that we need to work it out with the township, but we have allocated the fund. We have we have tried to hire the security officers, but it's just not enough. Don't have enough time to get to the people, to those security guards. As you can see, we have 8 or 9 security guards that's being on the agenda. Those are the people that will be deployed to the schools when the school starts. We will continue to hire the
guards. That's the question.
Well, yeah, they are.
They're unarmed. We don't know if they're armed, some are armed, some aren't. Unarmed.
So part of this is you had your time to speak and let Mr. Shi respond, and that's the way that this works. The back and forth is counterproductive.
So, we are doing what we try to do, and as Mr. Brescher said, we're also looking into have police officers to cover some schools. So all the things needs to be worked out with the police officers, with the Edison Police Department. Okay, so that's what we try to address. We're not avoiding it. We're putting the money to address this issue. Right. The other thing about the demographic information. Yeah, we have not had a long-range facility plan for the past. When was the last time?
2010.
2010. Okay, we don't have a long-range facility plan for the 6 years. We are addressing that issue. Okay, the demographic data study is going to predict what are the population is going to be moving forward. So yeah, you're saying where do we know where these kids from? You better go ask the township why these houses are being built. We have no control of why they're dividing one lot into 3 or building up 4 houses. We are working with the township, with the planning board and zoning board, try to reduce the number of houses being built. So that's all we can do. Well, once they're in the district, it's by law, we have to, provide the education to them. And that's all the best we can do right now. We have, if you're talking about overcrowding, yes, we have overcrowding task force. We are looking into building more classrooms. And, we are saving money on some of the vendors. We are putting into, I call it a special bucket. It's called overcrowding bucket. All those money we'll be putting in will be used to address that issue. But I cannot, this, we cannot address the overcrowding in 2-3 months. The plan is moving forward. We continue to do that, and that's what we're going to do. But
Mr.
if you
Shi?
want to, yes, yes.
Just to address some of the gentleman's concerns, we all have the same concerns up here about school security. The plan is to have a armed, either Class 3 officer, who's a retired officer, or a current officer that would get paid overtime or per diem in every building, along with a security guard. We've been working on this for months with the township. There's been some legal back and forth, and I know I don't want to hear it because school starts next Wednesday. I work in education, and Tuesday for our kids? Oh, Wednesday for my kids, anyway. So I get a day off. So, but yes, schools will have security. We even discussed this evening in closed session about the places we don't have security guards. We have police officers roaming the town, paying them, obviously, and to make sure the kids are protected. I am all for security and the safety of our children. Every child should be protected. Every school will have a police officer in it, or a retired police officer, which is a Class 3, and or a security guard. That's what I want to see in every building. As far as the demographic survey, it's not so much the demographic as far as what maybe you're thinking, how many Asians, how many Caucasians. It's more of a study on growth of population. There is a study out there that tells you and tries to predict the population increase in a certain town based on the amount of open space, amount of houses being built, and so forth and so on. So I think that's more of what we're talking about, not so much, you know, who's in our buildings. If you want.
Well,
Jerry,
let's
just go-
get somebody else.
I just
Yeah.
got one more comment with the police. No, just so that you understand. We started off originally where we were going to have security in the schools. We heard what the parents and what the public came out and told us. We went to our police department. We asked them to fill our schools with police officers. The police department had an issue doing it for $40 an hour. They came back to us and told us that they needed $60 an hour. We agreed to pay an additional $20 an hour because it wasn't about the money. It was about getting the police officers in the school. I think we received one extra police officer in our schools. So at that point, a quarter of our children are protected. So it didn't work. We were counting on them. We thought that we could do it, but they didn't have the manpower. The township just does not have the manpower, which brought in this class 3. So everybody's doing class 3 now. So the issue is that every town is also looking for the same thing we are. There aren't enough police officers in New Jersey or class 3 officers combined to fill every school that we do have. So at that point then, we even looked into, there's programs out there that allow you to monitor students, monitor everybody that comes in. I mean, it's not that we haven't done anything with it. We have. But are every one of our children protected by an armed officer? No. Were we told that that is what the answer would be? Law enforcement told us that that isn't the answer. In fact, they're telling us that their officers should be roaming the school. So if you know anything about J.P. Stevens or Edison High School, and you know that there's a police officer and he's roaming the back end of the school and a shooter comes in the front of that school, you will have the same exact scenario that you had down in Florida. It's not going to make a difference. So you need to have a comprehensive plan, which is what we are actually putting together. It's just everybody's not hired and on board yet.
Well,
Yeah.
wait till the second round. Let's people who have first round question, let them come over. Okay, anybody else has questions for resolutions?
Nope. Just-
No? Then you
Okay.
can go
You're
back.
up. You're up.
Yep.
Yep.
My only concern wasn't, Anthony DeAmron, 15 Rodack Circle. The issue is that we had, you acted like you were proactive in this search or this move to put police officers in the school. I mean, let's face the fact, nobody was proactive before this past spring, where the last 15, 20 years, there's been nothing done, zero done. I don't have all the answers, but I'm saying the fact of the matter is that you tell the people you're going to try to protect a quarter of the kids. We spend money. I mean, I'm sure we could go through all the budget, all the spending, all of everything, and we can find cut costs. We don't need necessarily Edison Police Department. We bring it. I'm not a security expert, but the fact is that I wouldn't want my kids in a school unless it was protected, real protection. That's it. You have to be armed. I mean, it's as simple as that. And we can't. It's not a perfect world. I get it, but it's not like this hasn't been an issue in the last 8, 10, 12 years, whatever it is. This is the sense of urgency is where I'm getting. I mean, it's what I'm getting at. It's just unbelievable. And and as far as the demographics, I wasn't worried about whether or not it was Asian or white.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what I meant. What I meant was somebody made a comment. We don't know where everybody's coming from, and I wanted to make sure that we know who these kids are when they're in our schools. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all that matters. So, but.
Thank you.
Can I get one more comment? Just to, I mean, I understand. I haven't been here on this board for very long. I mean, I guess it's been a year and a half now or something. Last November, I did send an email to our superintendent asking about who our security director was, what our security protocols were, where they were going, what do we do for lockdown. I had a detailed email that I sent him back in November. I asked him for another follow-up of it. Subsequent to that was January, I guess, was when the shooting happened. I'd like to say that he was in the process of working through that, and that's why we have those additional security people that were put on. I mean, prior to that, I wasn't on the board. It didn't occur to me to come up here from the public and ask. But after being on the board, yes, that came up, and that came up before the shooting ever happened.
I also, but I feel though, we give people a full sense of security when we say security guards. I mean, they're unarmed. I mean, if they're unarmed, we should say unarmed. We're working towards it. But I have major concerns with.
Want me to tell you why they don't want you to say unarmed? I'm going to tell you why. It comes from law enforcement. It's not from me.
I understand.
It's just so that they can't. What happens is if we tell you that they're armed, then what they're going to do is they're going to circumvent an armed person. But if you have some people that are armed and some that aren't armed, and nobody knows where they are at any one time, then the assumption from anybody would be that they are going to be armed and they're going to be all over. So it's kind of like that whole confusing thing. This comes from our law enforcement to us on how to.
It's a peace through strength. I get the strategy. I understand, but I'm not.
And also, just to let you know, being in education, each school in this district has a sophisticated security plan. Okay, the principals don't carry, obviously, but there's a sophisticated plan that the staff and the principals and the administration know of that the public's not privy to, and they will not be privy to because I'm an administrator in a different district. So to say that we haven't been doing anything, every year I believe they have to go to a workshop and be recertified in the most recent and updated security concerns from the state police, from the federal government, from the local police on down. So there are a lot of things that are happening in the schools that the parents or public don't know about, and they will never know about, but we are actively and doing a lot within the schools.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how I mean, then if there's stuff going on in the background, I obviously wouldn't know about it.
Right.
You know, but we haven't, let's be honest, we haven't been very proactive, only up until recently, and it's a copycat world. One school does it and every school follows. That's what it was. Because it's just, it's not popular to talk about. I understand,
Okay.
it's not.
So I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
but
Thank you.
All right, no problem.
I think the points have been made, and I'm going to reiterate my point that I made earlier about let's allow everyone to speak. You make your comment. Well, board members, I'm recommending you please hold your comments until the end.
I tried.
And I know you tried. I appreciate it. So that everyone can have one chance to speak and we can move along. Thank you.
I just want to add one more thing. You know, the things that has passed there in the past, we are moving forward. We're looking forward to address these issues. That's what we're doing. To rehash something that has passed, you can't redo it. So we're looking at what we can do right now, and what we are doing. That's what we're doing. Okay. So, all right. So that's anybody else? Resolutions only. Okay. See none. So let's go to the voting on these resolutions. So I will have as a motion to add Mr. Sexton's contract has already been added. So can I have a motion to vote on the personnel report and this newly added contract resolution? Do I have a motion for that?
Motion.
Okay, Mr. Erico, second. Mr. Brescher.
Did we go through all the board secretary's report and all that stuff first?
Yes.
We did? Okay.
Okay, this is
missed that.
to approve the personnel report,
And the
including Mr. Saxon's contract resolution, correct? Mr. Stefano?
Yes.
Mr. Brescher?
Yes.
Mrs. Peng?
Yes.
Mr. Erico?
Yes.
Mrs. Ward?
Yes.
Mr. Shi?
Yes.
All yes.
So in order to save some time, so let's bundle everything together. So can I have let's vote on the administration, which through A through G, and curriculum instructions, A through C, people services, A, B, C, and the finance resolution. Let's put everything together. Can I have a motion for all of those items? Okay, Mr. Brescher, second. Mr. DeStefano?
Mr. Stefano?
Yes.
Mr. Brescher?
Yes.
Mrs. Peng?
Yes.
Mr. Erico?
Yes.
Mrs. Ward?
Yes.
Mr. Shi?
Yes.
All yes.
Next up, we have a Finance Facility Committee report. Mr. Brescher?
Yes, the finance and facilities. On 8/22/18 at 1 p.m. at the Education Center, Richard Brescher, Jerry C., Teresa Ward, Paul DiStefano, Dan Michon, Rich Pepe, and Ken Taylor met. The committee met with the USA Architects to discuss the modular classroom projects at the FDR school. We discussed the different options for the location, the timelines, and the issues that we face, such as connecting utilities, possible wetlands infringement, and relocation of existing educational trailer. We also discussed updating the district's long-range facilities plan. The committee also interviewed 3 occupational physical therapist providers that had submitted proposals for providing OT-PT services to the Edison special education students. Discussion centered around the services to be provided, the staffing needs, and their hourly rates. They all stated that they would consider reducing their rates from their original proposals. The committee also discussed the need to have a current demographic study performed, since our last study was completed in December 2012. We received a proposal from Sundance Associates to complete a new demographic studies for $11,900. The committee is recommending that for the board to be approved. The committee reviewed Allied Boilers' proposal to replace the steam boiler at Lincoln School for $114,220. Allied Boiler has been awarded the district's bid for boiler cleaning and repairs for the 2018-19 school year. The committee recommends approval for the project. And the meeting was adjourned at 4:35 p.m.
Thank you. So that's the upcoming meeting announcements. We're back to our normal schedule. So the next meeting is our caucus meeting on September 24th. They'll be here in this room.
Combo.
24th.
Is it a combination meeting?
No, it's a separate normal, it's just caucus meeting.
It says combo on the agenda.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're trying to do just the one meeting a month from now on.
Caucus on the 12th.
Caucus public
And then
meeting.
we're gonna have the change from the
Mm.
17th
I have
to the
something to say,
24th.
So a combo meeting?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Ralph is
Sorry,
liking
I
it this
misspoken.
Combo meeting? Yeah, I like it.
All right.
Yes,
No
okay.
caucus
No
Combo
caucus
meeting.
meeting on September 12th, so we're gonna change the public from September 7th to September 24th. So we have one meeting. Okay.
September 12th is a holiday?
Because of the schedule
Because
in September, yes. It was difficult.
Just September.
just for September.
It was
okay.
difficult to get the 2 meetings in again.
Okay, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, just say the caucus
Yeah, I
slash
like that.
public meeting. Okay, I'm sorry.
Margaret took care
of it right
off the bat.
So, now, any board member comments? Yes?
Thank you. I'm going to have to get my notes out from under the microphone. The Edison Municipal Alliance Youth Services Commission held its annual Babes graduation at Town Hall on August 8th. Parents and friends of the graduates came to witness the culmination of the second grade summer program coordinated by Candy Veroni, Harpreet Upal, and Jay Elliott. 5 children spoke and all sang songs of children's self-awareness issues. The focus of the program is learning and self-esteem. Mayor Lanke presented certificates to the 27 graduates. Congratulations to all on an uplifting event. Also this summer in early July, Kiran Kumaranayakam, a junior at Edison High School, was elected vice president for competitive events at the FCCLA National Convention in Atlanta. Kiran was active in FCCLA at Herbert Hoover Middle School and followed through to Edison High School under the advisorship of Patricia D. Giora-Laird and Sandra Leda. Kiran will represent New Jersey on the National Council for 1 year, which will enable her to travel for leadership training, speaking engagements, and advocating for family consumer services. In addition, she will serve a 2-year term representing New Jersey on the Competitive Events Advisory Team. Again, congratulations are in order to Kieran and the advisors. That's it, Mr. President.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Okay, none. I have something that I want to add. I like to say that we have a.
This is your copy, and the article is sort, if I don't have the spelling correct.
So we have a student, Shriya Gopadi from John Marshall Elementary School, a third grader, who was placed second at the USA Roller Skating National Championship. Congratulations to Shriya. This is on July 29th, this year. The other thing I'd like to bring to the attention is that Edison School District was ranked 23 in the niche for the best school district in the state of New Jersey. We moved up a couple of spots this year. So congratulations to all the teachers and staff and the parents and students, what you have done. We'll continue to improve and hope we'll see the ranking go up next year when they do the new evaluation. But when I look at the details on the scores, we scored pretty well on some of the 8 or 9 areas, but the place we got a not that great record is on food. We had a grade of C. So I would like to see that we have make some improvements, to the food that we provide to our district, to the kids. To add on top of that, I'd like to see if the food advisor committee members, they're not here today, Beth Maroney and Shivi Prasad, if they can work with our vendor to see if we can put some halal food on the school menu. We probably should start from pilot from one of the schools to start there first and see if that can have any issues or whatever. I don't know who else is on the food committee. I know there are only 2 board members. There are some other staff members and maybe some parents as well. Dan, is that correct?
Yeah, we have a representative from every school.
Yeah.
We invite students and parents. We don't get a lot of parents and students that participate, but every school has a representative there.
Yeah, so I would like to, once the school starts, when they're back, I'd like to see if they can start a discussion with our vendors, pick one school to do a pilot, see if that we can be, put halal food as an option for some of the students, because we did hear quite some comments from the community that the kids have to bring lunches and stuff, but we'll see what we can do. Okay. All right, so now we're open for public comments. Anything else? Just, yes.
Bill Brunner, 215 Loring Avenue. Are you hiring soon and getting Channel 118 back in operation? Are you hiring somebody to handle that? And if so, how soon will it be in operation?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Do you have any other
Well,
questions?
That's one question, yeah.
Okay, yes,
He's
yes.
on the agenda.
Yes.
Give me a
I
little
want an
star.
answer.
Yes.
Yes, he's on the
agenda.
tonight.
Okay, fine. About 2 months ago, I asked the attorney
Question.
to check into a state law with reference to our State Board of Education, whether we had to belong to the State Board of Education. He said he'd get back to me, and it was about 2 or 3 months ago. How'd you make out?
I'm taking it down, State Board.
In other words, you
State
didn't.
board.
I thought I gave you the answer that we have to be part of the State Board.
No. No, I want you to check in to see if there was an actual law on the books that said we had to belong.
To the State Board of Education.
Yes, the thing that
New Jersey
Teresa
School
Ward's
Board.
been-
New Jersey
the
School
thing that
Board.
Teresa Ward's been fighting for years.
Not the State Board of Education, Mr. Brennan, New Jersey School Boards,
Oh, sorry, New Jersey School Board.
which
My
there is a
apologies.
law.
Yeah, my apologies.
And I told you that, yes, the answer.
You thought the answer was yes, but you weren't sure. Did you check on it to make
I
sure?
did, and the answer is yes.
Fine, thank you very much. I'm sorry to hear that, by the way. Thank you.
Next.
We did.
Got the
We got the
answer.
answer.
Hiring soon, so.
Yeah, he's on the minutes.
It's
to
on
be
the
hired.
agenda, starting on September 1st. If you look at it, it's on the agenda, yes.
He was here.
He was
Susan
actually here today.
Campione, 8 Schiffer Court. One quick thing about security. We had talked about putting vestibules in front of the schools. I thought that was going to happen this summer, which it didn't, so that's a question. And the other thing that I wanted to bring up now that the administration is changing, just something, food for thought. We had done a whole series of hidden heroes in the district. And teachers, bus drivers, custodians, cafeteria workers, everybody was honored as a hidden hero. And the former superintendent sat up and said that we had run out of hidden heroes and we moved on to honoring students within the district. There was not one paraprofessional that was honored as a hidden hero during that entire time. There's over 300 of us, 100 and close to 200, and most of us all live in Edison, and I find it hard to believe that not one of them could have been honored as a hidden hero. The other thing is that the survey that went out to all the students and the employees, none of the non-certificated got that survey. The secretaries work in the buildings and could have answered many of the questions. Paraprofessionals certainly could have answered the questions. We are in the classroom every single day. We have input into the district, and we weren't asked anything. So not one non-cert got that survey. And the other thing I wanted to point out was it was brought up to the previous administration for a non-certificated person of the year, the way that they do teacher of the year, and it was flatly rejected. It prevents a non-certificated person from moving on to the county and state level if it's not done at the local level. So the ETEA did step up and form a committee and do that. But I just wanted to put it out there now that administration is changing. A lot of you may not have been aware of these things, but I am a paraprofessional in the district, and these are things that have been mentioned several times by a lot of the employees, and just in the going forward that were included in some of the things that certainly a hidden hero, a survey, there's no reason why we could not have been included in those things.
Okay,
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes.
Elizabeth Conway, 20 Netherwood Circle.
Wait.
Was there a question that wasn't asked?
Oh, yes.
Well, we have not installed it, but it's a part of the overall plan. And there's
Security.
also
Yeah.
that we have heard there's additional funding that's available in the state. So if there's money in the state, we don't want to use our taxpayers' money to address that.
Elizabeth
Sorry.
Conway,
Yeah.
should I do it again?
Yes.
Elizabeth Conway, 20 Netherwood Circle. I realize that the first part of the meeting is we are to talk about resolutions and resolutions only, and at the end, it's open comments. I realize that the list of the self-contained preschool classes and disabled classes were listed in a resolution, but I thought my question would be more appropriate now. This is wonderful that we're bringing children back from out of district, but my biggest fear is that they are not getting or may not be getting the absolute education that they should be getting. As a teacher of special education, I noticed a change occurring over the time that I taught, the 16 years, and what the children that had IEPs were entitled to. And they were cutting back on what the children needed. Now, I see there's a wide list of new classrooms being addressed here. Are these children, can you actually look in the mirror and find the right answer that these children are getting the best education possible? I know there is an overcrowding issue, but that's not the children's problem. I taught for a number of years sharing a resource room with another resource room right in the same classroom with a blue movable wall. which was not the greatest. So I'm pleading with you that you keep a close eye on these children's education, that they are getting nothing less than excellence. Thank you.
Okay, I just want to add a comment
No,
to the.
yeah, I'd like to comment. As far as special education, I don't know if you remember our board meeting last year when we had the principal from James Monroe came down and she had her staff with her. And the one thing that I did ask her, and I did ask her staff, was to send me a list of whatever they felt they needed as far as support when it comes to teachers or space, whatever they might need, so that we could then budget for it and we can have that, in the district. I said that at the meeting. I asked, the staff and the principal, and I followed up with another email to the principal at the time, and I never received a response. So my assumption is that our staff has determined that they do have the support that they do need.
Please do not assume.
All I can do is
And it may not be-
People can't hear.
right.
But you finish?
Well, yeah, I mean, all that I can do is that when somebody brings a concern to me as far as our staff, and then I ask them for a list of what they need, I can bring the horse to water, but I cannot make the horse drink the water.
But it may not be tangible items that these children need. What is put into IEPs has been cut back upon. That's not something that you can pull out of your pocket to get the children the proper help that they need. When I started teaching, there were resource rooms for children that truly needed them. There are no longer resource rooms in most of the schools, if not all of the schools. Now, people talk about the pros and cons of having a resource center, that it's a problem parents don't like that children are taken out of the classroom. Well, children are taken out of the classroom for plenty of other things. They're taken out for GT, PT, OT, speech, everything else. There's no reason that if it's truly explained to the parents what's best for that child, that child would get the proper education. And this is something that we truly need to look into, that the children are getting all of the services that they truly need. Because by the time I was leaving, I was in ICR 5th grade teaching children that were on a 1st and 2nd grade level, which is not appropriate.
No, I'll tell you.
We can argue, but it's open comments, and I get to say what I think, right?
Yeah, but you got your time.
Yes. No. And I want to tell you, Elizabeth, I was actually one of those parents that fought against the resource room because my children were in it, and the ridicule that they received by their peers in the school from being pulled out of their class made me almost want to leave the district. And unless you have a child that's in that class and you see what happens from the other kids and what they call them when they go to those classes, you don't want your children going there. You want that extra teacher inside the classroom. I was a big advocate for that at the time.
No offense, but
Well, no. So I just want to add something that if you look at the budget this year, we put $2.5 million. What the money is for? The money is for special ed kids, for the pre-K schools. So these kids are on the priority that we're going to build a classroom for them. There's a resource to the room. All these things are great, but we don't have these resource rooms. We are building them, okay? And if you paid, Mr. Brescher just touched on the finance facility committee. We just had a meeting. We talked about how to build these classrooms, and that was a plan. And we're gonna address these special ed kids first, in this new school year. That's what we're gonna do. Thank you. Anything else?
Anthony Deameron, 15 Rodak. I just had a quick question. in terms of like allocating funds for these classrooms to be set up and prepared, I don't know the process going into it, but I don't know how it is that our teachers are basically, before like day one starts, before day one, they're hundreds of dollars are spent out of their own pocket every year. I don't know what the process is of getting the right supplies in for these teachers to hit the ground running, but they're spending money out of their own pocket. It's an absolute tragedy. It really is. So I don't know the breakdown of it, but if I heard it once, I heard it probably 100 times already, that the amount is, just to the basic supplies, just basic supplies that they got to go out of their own way. I think that's it's a shame. It's a shame. They work hard for the money. They should, these things should be, supplied to them by the town. So I don't know.
Not the town, the school board.
School
Town
board.
doesn't supply any penny.
School board. So I don't know the process. If you could clarify on that. So.
Dan, you want to say something on the process of providing supplies to teachers?
We supply supplies. If they request supplies from the schools, then we give them an allocation per student. I'm not sure what they would purchase. Maybe it's something over and above what we normally would supply, but I'm not aware of what it is that they're purchasing. But we do supply. We give each one. We have over $1 million in supplies that we give out to the schools every single year, and it includes everything: classroom supplies, teaching supplies, everything right to the clubs, everything.
Anybody else? See none?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, second. Okay, Mr. Brescher? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.